Good afternoon and welcome to this week's tarot reading. The kind of overarching question that I was exploring for this week's spread is when you find yourself stepping into uncertainty, what helps you to pause before racing in search of an answer? And when I kind of came up with this pondering, I started to think about how it's interesting that whenever uncertainty kind of lands in our life, or if we feel um, confused, or if there's something kind of challenging where we are, that our first instinct is to go and find the answer. And rarely will we sit to really kind of get an understanding of what is going on, because the the need to get out of that uncertainty, to get out of that discomfort, really overwhelms and overwrites everything else. So when I was thinking about it, I'm like, we've all done it, right? We've all found ourselves in situations where we have felt uncertain, where we've been lost, confused, and then the first thing we do is we race off to go and figure out what's wrong. There's just something in the human mind that is built to solve puzzles. And when we encounter confusion or when we encounter uncertainty, that just gets triggered. And the first thing we want to do is solve the puzzle and figure out what's going on. And then, we get caught up in a problem. It just seems to be begging to be solved. Then again, we just want to jump in and figure out what we can do. And sometimes, unfortunately, our brains move way faster than our bodies. And so our body that knows, this might be a time to just sit still, the brain's already off trying to solve a million different things, right? Now, the problem that we end up finding when we race off to solve all the problems and the conundrums and the puzzles is that we end up kind of running into two different problems. One is that when we race off, we fail to give ourselves the time to determine if there really is a problem there to be solved. And the other thing we run into is understanding whose problem really is in front of us. And so we might find ourselves solving somebody else's problem when our problems go unresolved. So we can easily find ourselves racing off to figure out a problem that's meant for someone else, or, having all the information or not having all the information, right? And so it's really easy to be trying to solve a problem, say with the wrong tools or for the wrong people or at the wrong time, only to find out that we've really actually made the situation worse. So one of the things that we want to explore in this spread is learning how to sit with the discomfort that comes with confusion and uncertainty. And, to be able to sit in that discomfort, to be able to sit with all of that, that's one of the greatest lessons that we can learn. And it's one of the greatest things that we can give ourselves, is to take the time in order to be able to find that clarity. So, the purpose of today's reading is to open space to sit with the discomfort that comes when uncertainty and confusion enter our lives. And I'm going to start shuffling the cards. What I'm shuffling into the cards right now, our main question is, what can sitting with the discomfort of uncertainty and confusion reveal about our relationship to answers? Because really that's what we're looking at, is what is our relationship to the need to have all the answers, or the need to have the right answer. And so what can sitting with the discomfort of uncertainty and confusion reveal about our relationship to answers? Now let's get our cards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, let's jump in. And our first position asks, what can be learned from sitting with uncertainty? And here we have the Four of Wands. And so the Four of Wands comes in to tell us that one of the biggest things that we can learn from being able to sit with uncertainty is gratitude. It is appreciation, right? The Four of Wands is a card of celebration. It's a card of rejoicing. And the thing is sometimes the things that we're celebrating and the things that we're rejoicing are the difficult things that we've had to endure, the difficult things we've had to overcome. And so when we sit with that uncertainty, we learn how much we can do. We learn how far we can go within that, bubble of uncertainty, within that sitting with confusion and the unknown. And so one of the things that we want to really be making sure is that we're taking that time in order to be able to have, the understanding of what it is that we really can do. Sitting, like when we can sit with that discomfort, when we can sit with that uncertainty, there comes a moment of peace, right? And unfortunately, most of us will sit, even if we do decide to sit with it, we will sit with it only for so long and then be, yeah, this is more than I can handle, and we'll stop. But when you learn how to sit and you learn how to be present to that uncertainty and to that discomfort that it brings, there really does come a moment of peace where everything settles and we're able to really just be with that, knowing that this is like everything else. It is something that can pass. It is something that maybe just having that moment of peace and that moment of clarity is really all that we needed in that moment. Our next card asks, what embodied lesson is uncertainty here to teach? And I really like, the way this spread was kind of designed, because it uses each of the compass points of the spread to look at what the lesson is that is coming from that direction. And so when we're looking at the north, which is the place of, for me, it's like the place of the three-dimensional world. It's everything that's tangible, tactile. And so when these lessons come to us, there is an embodiment that we have, right? Whether it's that nauseousness in the stomach or it's the tightness in the chest of having this uncertainty there, we all have these moments. We all go through them. And so what is that here to teach us when we have those feelings? And here we have the Ace of Pentacles. And this is a beautiful card to have in the North, right? Because the Pentacles are that physical embodiment within the tarot of the physical world. And so here you have the Ace of Coins coming in and saying, what you're learning in these moments is how to start over. And I really like the image on this card because you've got the frog right here, right? The frog is transformation. It is the tadpole coming out of its watery world and up onto land. And so what the embodiment is teaching us is how can we come out of that watery world of the tadpole, right? Where when the discomfort comes in, it tends to automatically bring an emotional reaction to it. And when we can sit and allow the cycles of our emotions to pass, allow the flow to go, then we're left here with our feet planted on the earth, with ourself grounded in the moment to be able to know now that the emotion has passed, what is the physical action that's being asked for? And so when we get into these moments of confusion, when we get into these moments of uncertainty, what is really being asked to look at is what lies beneath the emotion. What is the concrete thing that you can point at, that you can stand on, that you can hold in your hand, that is going to say, this is the true beginning? Because the emotions will never be the true beginning of the resolution, of the answer. They're going to be the indication that there is something there to explore. And so I really like that, up there in the north, we actually ended up with the Ace of Coins. So now if we move down south, we're looking at what motivational lesson is uncertainty here to teach. And this is where we start to kind of look at, when I feel uncertain, when I feel confused, what do I do, right? Do I give myself a chance, even just to pause and go, there's something here I don't know, no, there's something here that I'm not quite sure of. Or do we like have something happen and we're immediately reactive to what's going on? And again, here we have a fire card in a fire position. And like the Ace of Coins, the page is the beginning as well, right? It is the first of the court cards, and the page is initiation, the page is curiosity, the page is this, you know, desire to go off and explore. And so the motivational lesson that uncertainty in this situation is here to teach is, how much are you willing to engage with the question of what's before you, right? Do you race off to find the answer, versus are you willing to sit here and engage in a conversation with the question of the uncertainty? It's two very different ways to approach it, right? Like the first way, kind of like I was talking about before, is that uncertainty shows up, we feel the need to have an answer for the uncertainty, so we run off. And instead, we might take the wrong tools, we might be solving somebody else's problem, we may find out there was never a problem there to begin with. However, if we follow the message of the Page of Wands, uncertainty shows up and we go, what's this? I'm curious about this. I want to know more about this. I want to explore. I want to investigate. I want to really, really kind of see where this is taking me. And the answer is irrelevant. If we get to an answer, the answer is like, oh, and I got this. Oh, wow, that's really interesting. But the whole purpose of the lesson of this is to understand what you're motivated to engage in. So I think it's very interesting that, you know, so far most of the cards have definitely been under the 5, but also they all are closer to the beginning of something, right? So it's saying that when we get into these situations, we need to understand there's a whole process that's going to be coming and evolving and developing and unfolding. And so it's important for us to be curious about, what is this journey going to bring to us? And so this brings us to the next position, which is, what relationship lesson is uncertainty here to teach? And what I like about this position is it can teach us about the relationships with others, right? So if we have been surrounded by people who are highly reactive, something happens, there's a seeming problem, and they just go, let's go, let's run off and solve it. Chances are you will follow that same pathway. If you surround yourself with people who are like, oh, this happened, this is interesting, let's talk about this a little bit, let's kind of understand what's going on before we dive into trying to figure out how to resolve it, then you're more likely to do that. The other thing I wanted to bring into this question particularly is your relationship with uncertainty, right? Are you open to moments of uncertainty? Do you invite them in, or do you block the door and barricade them and tell them you are not allowed in here, right? And so here we have another fire card, and this is the 7 of Wands. And it's interesting because what this is asking us is, in your relationship with uncertainty, where are your boundaries? Where are the line that you draw? How far will you allow uncertainty to push you into a reactive role, into a state where you no longer have the capacity to control what is happening, right? When you look at all of these wands down here, right? Like they're trying to kind of come and throw him off. And it reminds me of, there was a show we used to watch called The Unbeatable Banzuke. And they had this one game on there, which was called the Daruma game. And they had 7 layers, right? They were like round spheres that they would pile 7, one on top of the other. And then on top of it, they would put a Daruma. And the people would have to come with these big mallets, and they would have to smack the discs out and try to get them down so that the Daruma lands on the table just by himself. And that's what this is reminding me of, right? Like here's these wands coming to knock basically the foundation out from under you to see, can you stay standing, you know, on that pillar that's, and if you look, like there's space, these are basically look like floating pillars. So if somebody like took the rug out from under you, could you still manage to stand, right? Like, are you going to fall, or are you going to be like those people that can like yank out a tablecloth and have all the silverware and everything still standing? That's what this is asking, is where do you find yourself on that position? And so right now, what we want to look at is, we want to look at the relationship that we have between the people that we see as aggressors, as trying to knock us off. And I say people, but I think what I'm really kind of looking at in this situation is, if this is uncertainty, if this is confusion, can you stand up there and know in yourself that no matter what comes at you, you'll be able to figure it out. If there is a problem to solve, you'll know when to act. You'll know how to act. You'll know what people to connect to. And so that's a really interesting one to have in this kind of idea, because what it really is asking is really, what is your relationship to uncertainty, and who has the power in that um, relationship. And so the final question that we have is, what discernment lesson is uncertainty here to teach? And this is where we go into, like, if you have discernment, then you know which ones are there for you to solve. You know which confusing aspects of your life are there to teach you in the confusion, and which are there to challenge you to move beyond it, to find something else. And I think the other thing that it's important to say is that when confusion and discomfort and uncertainty show up in our lives, they never show up hoping that we will find an answer. I think they show up to see, how do you get from that point to the next point on the journey? And here we have, I believe, yeah, it is the first major arcana and our only major arcana card, and this is strength. And I think this is actually a beautiful place to end when we're looking at discernment and uncertainty, because what the lesson is can you rely on your inner resources? Can you rely on your resilience? Can you rely on your confidence, on your courage, and your determination to be able to know what path is the best path to kind of help you through this particular moment? Because if you look, right, like, she's standing here right by the white tiger, who seems to be like quite calm, quite at peace. And so there's that idea that, yes, whatever's going on, I know what's going on, and I'm okay. I can sit here, and there are things going on that maybe I have no answers for. Maybe I lack the ability to understand what's going on, and that's okay. But the thing is you've got like the wild tiger, so that wild instinctual beast is still there. It still has the capacity to act. It still has the capacity to do what it needs to be doing. And so the thing that it's important for us to remember is that no matter what happens, if we have the ability to sit and have the confidence and the courage to sit in that absolute discomfort that really drives us to the point sometimes of insanity to want to do something, then the understanding, the instinctual right action will come from that. But if we avoid this moment of being with that discomfort, of being in that craziness, then whatever it is that we do is more likely to increase the anxiety, to increase the discomfort, to increase the problems, because all that is doing is it's keeping us from being able to really tune into our intuition so that we can be present for whatever's coming up. Now, when I look at the cards, a couple of things that stand out to me is that we have the Ace of Pentacles and Strength as the only two, well, as the only two, I'll put it this way, as the only two non-wands card. And then if I put that down, then we end up actually with 4 of the 5 cards are all fire cards, because strength is connected to Leo, which is definitely a very big fire. The other thing is that all of these cards are indicating stay, right? Celebrate the discomfort, celebrate the confusion, celebrate whatever is coming up and going on, and be there and be grateful for them, because they are teaching moments. They are growth stepping stones along our entire journey. We're being asked to let the emotions run their course so that we can actually be present for what that first physical action is that we're being asked to do. Be curious, be willing to explore, be willing to go on an adventure for the sake of going on an adventure and less for finding an answer. Remember who is the one that is in control during these situations. And it takes time. It takes practice to be able to sit with this discomfort and be able to say, you can come at me all you want, but I'm going to sit here and I'm going to be okay and I'm going to wait. And that comes from that practice of strength, right? It comes from that practice of being able to sit calmly, even though something might be kind of stalking up behind you and making you feel like you have to, right? Like this whole card to me, when I look at it, it reminds me of breathe. It reminds me of pause. It reminds me that things might be going on that are unseen or that are felt on a deeper level. And it's okay to just be present to it. So I hope that you enjoyed this reading and I hope that something rose for you. If you are dealing with some kind of discomfort or some kind of confusion within your life right now, lean into it, right? Allow yourself to kind of pause and breathe and lean into it and find the moment in your confusion to celebrate. Find the thing that is there that is going to make it okay. And that could be, wow, I've been able to sit with this discomfort for 10 seconds. Last time it was none, right? Allow yourself to be in those moments and just once the emotion has gone through, know that it's okay to take action at that point, because as long as you go through it and you're acting out of curiosity and you're making sure that you've got your firm boundaries and that you're confident in the things that you're doing, then the situation will unfold in the way that it's meant to. If you're running off and chasing out of fear, if you're running off and chasing out of avoidance, then chances are the situation's just going to be prolonged even longer, or it's going to lead you to an even stickier situation. So I hope you enjoyed this reading and that you'll come back next week for the next one. In the meantime, take care, and I will see you around the webs.